Hello and welcome to the Equals to Palace podcast. I'm Alfonso Greenbrook and today Pod 45 I'll be looking at a result against Liverpool by bringing you my match review, player rankings and my man of the match. As well as this, I'm also going to bring you an exclusive interview with Sam Allardyce, Jason Puncheon, Christian Benteke and Andrew Townsend after the game. So let's begin. Christian Benteke came back to haunt his former club by scoring both of the side's goals as Palace claimed a third straight victory at Anfield to go within touching distance of Premier League safety. Another fantastic performance by Sam Allardyce's side was secured thanks to the Belgian hitman, who continued his prolific form by netting in both halves of the game to get on the scoresheet for the 5th time in his last 5 outings, and extend the Eagles' unbeaten run on Merseyside to 7 matches. That run had looked to be in jeopardy when Palace found themselves behind thanks to Philippe Coutinho's free kick. But just before half-time, Benteke grabbed the crucial leveller when he tucked home a fine Johan Cabaye delivery, before completing his brace from a corner to put Palace 2 points away from the magical 40-point mark. The opening 20 minutes saw Liverpool pin their visitors into their own half for long periods, but some confident defending as well as a couple of crucial blocks that meant that Wayne Hennessy was the spectator during the early stages. And indeed the first chance of note went to the Eagles midway through the first half, when Benteke came so close to netting against his former club when he cut inside past a couple of defenders and took aim, but was a whisker away from finding the far corner. However, just 2 minutes later the opening goal did arrive, but it came from the hosts. Having won a free kick after being fouled by Luka Milivojevic, Coutinho stepped up and the Brazilian curled a 25-yarder over the Eagles' wall and into the net, leaving Hennessy scrambling across the line in vain as he celebrated his 10th goal of the campaign. The pressure continued from Jurgen Klopp's team, and after some fine interplay between James Milner and Jordi Wijnaldum carved out a chance for Emre Can, Palace were thankful that the German midfielder got his feet in the muddle and spooned a great chance well wide. But the Eagles were much more clinical in front of goal and they soon grabbed the equaliser just 4 minutes before the break. A sweeping move saw James Tomkins switch the ball out to Joe Ward on the right flank, and he played an exceptional pass down the line that allowed Johan Cabaye to scamper past a static Lovren. The Frenchman swept the ball first time into the perfect spot for Benteke to race onto, and his side-footed shot hit the roof of the net, as he scored for the 4th time in his last 3 appearances as an opposition player at Anfield, which would be added to later on in the afternoon. Palace's top scorer then nearly doubled his tally on the stroke of half-time, when he controlled a cross on his chest and hooked the ball goalwards, but it was straight as Simon Mignolet as Palace ended the half on top. The second half mirrored the start of the previous one in that Liverpool enjoyed the lion's share of possession and territory, but this time they were also carving out chances. Virtually all of their threat was passing through Coutinho, and after he skied into the clock, he then wriggled past 3 Palace defenders inside the area before being denied by a brave Tomkins block, and then saw a fine header from a Nathaniel Klein delivery strike Origi 6 yards from goal, but Palace counted themselves lucky as it deflected towards a grateful Hennessy. The hosts continued to push on and Roberto Firmino flashed a fizzler wide of the far post, but once again Allardyce's side looked more threatening on their rare foragers forward and could have easily have grabbed the lead when a scramble inside the area littered with poor clearances saw the ball fall at Cabaye's feet 6 yards out. But with a split second to get his shot away, the Frenchman blasted over. But in 73 minutes the turnaround was complete. Having won a corner on the right, Andrew Townsend sent it towards the front post where it deflected off Roberto Firmino, and Benteke stopped to head it into the net from close range to score his 16th goal of the season and make Klopp wish he had kept him in a red shirt. With the game in its dying stages, Benteke was withdrawn with a couple of minutes to go to a warm applause from his former fans as well as the Eagles supporters gathered in the away end, who had to endure 6 minutes of stoppage time that saw Allardyce's men put in one last push to gain their 5th win from 6 games, and put them on the brink of safety after another mammoth result. Crystal Palace showed their determination despite going 1-0 down early in the game. A Christian Benteke double secured all 3 points, putting Palace within touching distance of Premier League safety. Now for some positives from the game. Palace's character shone through. Despite the early setback, they stuck to Sam Allardyce's game plan and fought their way back into the game with Benteke's equaliser, then took the advantage with his winner. The defensive agility, so often the bane of top 6 sides since Allardyce took over, ensured that all 3 points went back to South London. Now some negatives from the game. The free kick Liverpool scored from was given away in a bad position, especially when you consider how lethal Philippe Coutinho can be from that position. But Palace made up for it with their effort and organisation that followed. Crystal Palace took a huge step towards Premier League survival with a 2-1 win away against Liverpool at Anfield on Sunday. 2 goals from Christian Benteke on his return to Liverpool helped Palace come from behind to earn a massive 3 points in their quest to prolong their stay in the Premier League into a 5th season. But what did we learn from the game? Here are 5 things. Number 1. Free kick Philip. Crystal Palace would have been aware of the threat posed by Liverpool's little Brazilian Philippe Coutinho at set pieces, yet they were undone by one here. After Luka Milivojevic fouled him just outside the box, he didn't need a second invitation. However, the Eagles' wall did their best to help him, with not one of the 4 men jumping in it. Number 2. Benteke's back. Christian Benteke was returning to Anfield for the first time since his summer move from Liverpool to Palace, and he celebrated with 2 goals against his former side. It would have been sweet for the Belgium international, with one in front of the famous Kop and the other proving to be the winner for the Eagles. Number 3. Rock, paper, scissors. There is no doubt that Mamadou Sakho has been a rock at the back for Palace in recent weeks, but he wasn't able to face his parent club under terms of his loan agreement. But he still made his presence known on Merseyside, joining in with the celebrations after Benteke's goal with a quick game of rock, paper, scissors in front of the Palace bench, earning a somewhat bewildered look from Palace assistant manager Sammy Lee and plenty of comments from both sets of supporters on Twitter. Number 4. Opposite ends of the spectrum. Crystal Palace boss Sam Allardyce was full of praise for his side after a 3rd shock in as many weeks, with the Eagles following up their recent wins against Chelsea and Arsenal with another top 6 scalp to boost their chances of survival. However, for Liverpool it continues to be a trend of struggling against sides from the bottom half. The Reds have not lost any of their games against sides in the top 10 this season, but have now lost twice at home against Swansea and Palace and 4 times away from home against Burnley, Bournemouth, Leicester City and Hull. And number 5. Can Palace play at Anfield every week? This may have been an unexpected win for the Eagles, given the respective positions of the 2 sides, but it perhaps shouldn't come as much of a surprise given that Palace have won on their last 2 visits to Anfield, and they made it 3 in a row with a solid defensive effort to take a massive step towards safety, becoming the first team since Chelsea in 2005 to win 3 games in a row at Anfield. So now you've had the match review, we're now going to move on to the player rankings. But before we start, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Crystal Palace for all the latest news. And for all you Facebook users out there, don't forget to check out our Facebook group so you can join in the latest discussions, read the latest news and post your own opinion. So like I said there, if you're on social media and you do want to get in contact with us, then of course you can follow us on both Twitter and Facebook, and you can find both of these pages by using the @Crystal Palace. Now I personally would highly recommend you do follow both of these pages because we do regularly update them with the latest news, so if you do want to keep up to date with all things Palace and you do want an account to follow, then I would highly recommend you do follow our account, because after the game we post player and manager interviews, and obviously in the run up to the summer transfer window we do regularly post articles on there about the latest sort of transfer rumours. So if you do want to keep up to date with all the news, all the interviews and also all the transfer rumours, then of course do give us a follow so you can get all the news on both Twitter and Facebook obviously into your feed. And also we do post Twitter polls, and that's been quite popular on Twitter over the last few months, so occasionally we will post Twitter polls on our Twitter account. So if you do want to get involved and have your opinion heard and vote in the poll, then of course do give us a follow, so like all of the news it comes up in your feed when and if it's there to vote on. And obviously if you're on Facebook, of course you can join our main Facebook group, but I personally would highly recommend you do join the Facebook group. And the reason I recommend it, and I'm actually a member of it, is because after the game quite a lot of fans go on there to post their own opinion on how they thought the players performed or anything they felt or see in the game which they want to share it with other fans. And that's because I personally, the group was set up so other fans can discuss with each other what their views are of the game, and whether it be how you thought a player performed, whether it be about a refereeing decision you saw in the game, anything you saw in the game, go onto the Facebook group because it's a great place to share your opinion with other fans. And like I said, if you like to hear what other fans had to say and you like to post your own opinion so you can let other people know what you thought about the game, then of course do join the Facebook group, because it's a perfect place for you to do that, because your opinion goes straight into someone's feed, so they can read your opinion, and obviously they can comment about whether you disagree or whether they agree or disagree with you. And you know, even if you didn't go to the game, or you went to the game and you don't want to comment about the game, if you took a picture or a video or the Homestead Fanatics or the game itself, then of course do also post that onto the Facebook group, because I'm sure there may be one or two people who weren't able to go to a game one week and may want to look back at the pictures. But certainly if you do want to, you know, have a place to communicate and, you know, sort of hear what other fans have to say, then I would, like I said, highly recommend you do join the Facebook group. And much like the Twitter page and obviously the main Facebook page, we do regularly update it with the latest news. So if you do want another place to get all the latest articles, interviews, things like that, then of course do give us a follow. And you know, if you are struggling to find any of these social media pages and groups, then of course do use the links in the description below on the YouTube video, on Acast, and also on iTunes. And obviously if you are listening to the podcast on YouTube, you can't really do this on Acast or iTunes, but I would highly recommend you do drop a comment below the video on how you thought, what you thought about the game, and also who you thought the standout player was with Palace. And obviously I'll go on to talk about my man of the match. But obviously the only reason I want you to do this is so I can hear what you thought about the game, and much like the Facebook group, it's all about opinions. So I want to hear what you thought about the game and who you thought the standout player was, but also anything else throughout the game. And obviously as I go on to the player rankings, I'll talk about each player, but if there's something you disagree with me, or there's something you thought I missed, or just comment anything about the game, do that in the YouTube comments, so obviously I can see it, other fans can see it, and also so you can share your opinion of the game. And obviously over the last few weeks I've set a challenge to the listeners, and that's for you to list your player rankings from 1 to 10, with obviously 1 being the best and 10 being, with 1 being the worst and 10 being the mess. And this is how you rate how you thought the players performed. So obviously in the podcast I go through my player ratings, ranking all of the players from 1 to 10, but what I want you to do in the YouTube comments is drop a comment below about how you thought the players performed. And the only reason I want you to do that by giving them a rating and maybe a little bit of description is just so I can compare my opinion of the player rankings, or how I thought the players performed, and compare it to yours. And the good thing about this is say if you thought I ranked a player too high or too low, you comment that below so I can see your opinion and actually see from another person's perspective how they viewed the game and how they thought the players performed. And considering quite a lot of people have done this recently, you can see the contrast in how some people thought some players were better than others, and how some people thought that players were worse than others. And it's really interesting to hear your views. So like I said, with the Facebook group, the Twitter page, you know, I personally like to read other fans' opinions. So if you do, drop a comment below the video on YouTube, or contact me at the CPC podcast on YouTube to share the opinion. You know, even if you don't want to comment anything about the game, you don't want to comment, you know, with your player ratings, of course just comment something like the man of the match, so I can hear who you thought had the biggest influence in the game. So obviously if you do want to keep up to date with all things Palace, then I would highly recommend you do follow all of our social media pages, including the Twitter and Facebook pages. But enough of that, now to move on to the player ratings. Starting in goal with Wayne Hennessy, who I am going to give a 7. Suspect positioning for Liverpool's goal and some questionable decision making too. His distribution was excellent as ever though. So obviously Wayne Hennessy here, I've given him a 7 because, to be honest, as a whole it was a pretty good performance from him. And like I said, other than the positioning for Liverpool's goal and the sort of decision making towards the end of the game where he missed a punch, he actually had a pretty decent game. And if you probably listen back to the match report, he didn't really have that much to do in the fact that Liverpool's chances, that they either went wide or they were easy catches from him. And considering Liverpool only had in the second half 1 shot on target, that just shows how good the defence is, and that just highlights that Wayne Hennessy didn't really have to do much in the game at all. And although he didn't get a clean sheet, which he probably would have wanted to hope for, considering in the last sort of few games, especially the one against Arsenal, he would have had that confidence. But although other than that, a pretty decent performance, and that's why I've given him the 7. And there isn't really much to say about his performance, like I said, because A, he didn't really have that much to do, and B, when he did do stuff, he done it alright. And like I said, other than the Liverpool's goal, well, I'm not really going to blame him too much, because to be honest, if you watch the replay of the goal, it was a very good goal in my opinion from Coutinho, good free kick. And obviously the decision making towards the end of the game, you want to try and win the game, and he flapped at a, you know, flapped it across. He sort of did get a punch in it, but it wasn't strong enough. But because the defence in front of him was so solid throughout the game, and obviously the midfield as well, we were able to clear the danger, so it didn't really punish him. But to be honest, other than them two things, the goal and the positioning, he had a pretty decent game, like I said. And the thing that I really liked about his game, and that's why I've given him a 7, is his distribution as well. You know, we obviously didn't have a lot of possession against Liverpool, so we had to try and run on the counter-attack, try to sort of use our pace to our advantage against Liverpool. we've done that exactly well. And you know, they talk about starting the attack from the back, and certainly we've done this in this game. You know, Wayne Hennessy, whether it be his long goal kicks up the pitch, whether it be his quick feet to pass the ball up to the centre back so we can carry on, but his distribution, throwing, everything like that was fantastic throughout the game. And you know, considering we didn't have a lot of possession, maybe about 30% possession, I believe, maybe 40, whatever it was, we had to do what we could with it. And Wayne Hennessy, I personally think, was crucial to that, because when he had the ball, he was able to distribute it far away, so obviously we could start up the counter-attacks. But certainly a 7 from him. Not one of the best performances we've seen in recent weeks, considering how well he's been, but to be honest, could be blamed for the goal, which I'm not going to do. You know, decision making quite questionable, but didn't really punish us. But certainly a good game from him. Obviously, moving on now to the left back, Jeffrey Schlupp, who I'm going to give a 7. Had some difficulty dealing with Liverpool's targeted attacks down the left wing, but he appeared to settle in during the second half. So to Jeffrey Schlupp here, much like Wayne Hennessy, I've given him a 7 because it was actually a very good performance from him. And considering we've beaten one of the form teams in the league in Liverpool, I think we can certainly say the defence done a good job, and certainly Schlupp done his job here. And although, you know, much like some of the players in past weeks, you know, especially in sort of the opening stages against Arsenal, we did struggle to deal with the threats. And you know, we do know that Liverpool have got some very good attacking, pacey wingers who go down the left and the right. And you know, Jeffrey Schlupp did at the beginning of the game look like he was going to struggle, and it did look like, from a fan's perspective, it was going to be a very long game. And the fact that they kept running past Schlupp, kept getting passing, kept putting crosses in. But like I said, like in past games and with quite a lot of players in this game, they slowly grew into the game, and in the second half he was even better. And the thing that was different about his performance in the second half, he was actually getting involved more in attack. So in the first half, yes, he was trying to do his defensive job because he was struggling a little bit with it, but once he had that sort of freedom and he had that confidence again, and he was able to do his defensive work perfectly, he was able to venture forward. And there were a few times, lovely 1-2s with Zaha, Andros, you know, and there was one time he actually got into the box as well, had a shot, and I believe it deflected for a corner. So just showing that, yes, he's got his defensive attributes as well. Obviously, once he gets into a game, he can defend well, but also he's got that attacking threat as well with the pace. And obviously that's why I've given him the 7. You know, it wasn't a fantastic performance from him, but certainly, like I said, the fact that he had that sort of capability to grow into the game and get better as the game went on is personally what I like. I like a player to be able to do that, and it shows they've got good character. But like I said, good. You know, he used his pace to his advantage. You know, he tried to match Liverpool for pace, done that perfectly well, and obviously that's why I've given him the 7. Obviously, moving on now to the centre-back who came back from injury, obviously because Mamadou Sakho couldn't play, and that is James Tomkins, who I am going to give a 9. Impressive as ever, putting his feet and head into difficult places to ensure that Palace got the win. The victim of a nasty tackle from Marco Guric, a foul worthy of a red card. He persisted in attack during injury time and did his job there too. So to James Tomkins here, I've given him a 9, and it's very rare that I give a 9, but considering in the last few games we've had good performances, I've actually given 1 or 2 of them out. But certainly James Tomkins, coming back from injury, you wouldn't expect him to be match fit, but he was absolutely superb, hence why I've given him a 9. You know, there isn't really words to describe his performance, because yes, we beat Liverpool, that's all well and good, but to be honest, I suppose we can describe it as impressive. His performance was impressive. You know, everything he done, putting his feet, putting his head, everything he done throughout the game to get the blocks in, to get the tackles in, to stop Liverpool getting in on goal was fantastic. You know, he ensured, you know, there were some difficult blocks he made, especially one against Coutinho where he managed to just get down low enough to block it. Them sort of tackles kept us in the game, and that is why we won the game. The fact that he ensured that he made that block or he made that tackle to make sure that Liverpool couldn't get through. But other than that, obviously he was impressive in that respect. That's why I've given him the 9, for the fact that his tackles and his blocks alone. But I must talk a little bit about the red card, and considering that Match of the Day didn't pick up on this, and also I believe it was Sky Sports, you know, their sort of highlights didn't pick up on this. There was a nasty tackle from Marco Guric. Now, I'm not really going to talk too much, I'm going to mention it, but that tackle, I've seen the replays of it, I've seen it from different angles, that is a definite red card. And obviously Liverpool brought this player on because they sort of wanted to try and be more attacking, but that certainly, he would have been sent off before, you know, just after he came on the field. That tackle was horrendous. He was off the ground, 2 feet off the ground, with his studs up and right into the side of Tomkins' leg, and I believe it was probably near around his knee. But it doesn't matter where it is in the body, that could be a really serious injury, and I don't know why the referee didn't see it, because if you look back at the replays, the referee's in perfect position because he's seen the foul, so he's given us the free kick and booked him for a yellow, but he should have seen that there was 2 feet off the ground. His studs were up and he went directly into Tomkins' knee, and considering that Tomkins had just come back from injury, I think it's, you know, we were sort of heart in mouth moment because we thought he's just come back from injury, will he get injured again because of this really bad tackle? And considering, you know, in the Hull City game, Hull City's striker got sent off for much less of a foul than this one from Guric, and still, you know, he only got a yellow card. But like I said, you know, 2 feet off the ground, diving into that tackle, studs up, definite straight red. And to be honest, you know, because of that injury, he sort of couldn't play that defensive role because he didn't want to be that injured, and, you know, he didn't want to get more injured. And obviously Allardyce put on this tactic, which I thought is all right. You know, it probably is all right because Tomkins is quite ball playing. It's the fact that, you know, during sort of towards the end of the game, we brought Fraser Campbell on. He sort of went out wide, and Tomkins actually played sort of in that sort of midfield up front role, and that's just, you know, he persisted to attack. That was sort of just to go in to give us a sort of defensive attacking option in sort of in the striker role, just to sort of see the game out. And, you know, although he isn't a striker, he was playing in that role, but still done the job there, and that's what's really impressive. The fact that if he's called upon by the manager just to sort of go in an uncomfortable role, just to see out the game, the fact that he's done that is a credit to him. But like I said, 9 for Tomkins, absolutely fantastic performance from him. And considering he did leave the ground, or, you know, he did leave the ground on crutches and in protective boot because of that horrible foul from Guric, hopefully he won't play. I'll tell you now, I haven't heard the press conference, but he definitely won't play against Tottenham. But hopefully he'll be alright for the games following that, you know, the Hull City games, all of these other games after that. Hopefully he'll be alright for that, because certainly from this performance alone, I've given him a 9. Fantastic performance. But, you know, like I said, 9, giving him a 9 for the blocks and tackles alone. And like I said, towards the end of the game, played sort of that midfield attacking role and done a job there as well. But like I said at the beginning, I keep saying that, but seriously, BBC didn't highlight it, but that tackle from Marko Guric certainly should have been a straight red. Like I said, feet off the ground and a sliding tackle. Now to move on to his centre-back partner, Martin Kelly, who I am going to give an 8. A player that looked shell-shocked during Palace's poor spell under Alan Pardew. It's great to see Kelly put in performances like this one, reading the game and opponents perfectly. So obviously Martin Kelly here, I've given him an 8 because much like Tomkins, it was a very solid performance from the centre-back. But before I'm going to talk about his performance, I'm just going to talk about how his performances were under Alan Pardew's tenure. Now, towards the sort of end of Alan Pardew's time as the Palace manager, you know, Martin Kelly was coming in for quite a lot of stick, and I personally, on the podcast, did criticise him a lot. And to be honest, his poor performances did warrant that, because he weren't really performing up to the standard. And, you know, that sort of period where we kept losing games, I think that sort of had an effect on the way Kelly played, and he did look shell-shocked. He was one of the players that, because we kept losing games, it seemed to have a very big effect on him, and obviously did affect his performances. And, you know, like I said, towards the end of sort of Alan Pardew's time as the manager, you know, we did see that actually he was having a great effect on the way he was performing. And, you know, it's great to see now that although he's put this behind him, he's had that sort of bad memories, he's had that bad performances, he's been able to put that behind him, do some work on the training ground, and then put in excellent performances like this one. And, you know, we knew the quality he had, you know, when he signed for the club. We've seen a few games he played this season, last season. He's got the quality to be a very good defensive player, whether that be him playing right back or playing in the centre-back role, which I personally prefer him to play, because I personally think he's better there. But, you know, the fact that, you know, he's got that quality there, and now he's starting to show it. And considering he's an ex-Liverpool player, you know, he's going to try and show them wrong. He's going to try and sort of show them what he's made of. And in this game, he didn't let that occasion get above him and actually put in an excellent performance. And much like James Tomkins' tackles, blocks, they were all fantastic throughout the game. But personally for me, his reading of the game, the fact that he could see the attacking scenarios that Liverpool were putting forward, and he was able to do what was effective, or what he had to do to get the clearances away. You know, he'd done that a few times, or quite a lot of times. And then obviously reading the opponents as well. So obviously he can read the game, but reading the opponents, knowing what the player's going to do next, is a very important thing as well. So the fact that he was able to read the game so he can know where to go, know what to do, know when to make a tackle, but the fact that he can read the opponents as well and find out what they're doing is a really impressive part from his game. But like I said, a massive improvement from the beginning of the season under Alan Pardew, and he's sort of put that experience, that sort of psychological effect, he's put that behind him, and now he's sort of refreshed under Sam Allardyce and puts in performances like this. And like I said, he's much better playing as a centre-back as opposed to a right-back, and I personally think it's because he hasn't really got the pace to be a right-back, and also he's much taller, so he's much more suited to the centre-back role. But like I said, he did look shell-shocked under Alan Pardew. Sam Allardyce has managed to completely change his form around, make him into an even better player. And considering he's only 26, if he can carry on this form, he's going to be a crucial asset to us in the future. But like I said, we miss, or I haven't said this already, but we miss Sakho obviously because he couldn't play against his lone parent club. But considering Sakho's been very good, Kelly's come in, Tomkins has come in, and they've done exactly the same job that Sakho's done. So that's just credit to Martin Kelly, the fact that he's come in, or him and Tomkins have come in for Sakho as a replacement, and have actually done as good of a job as he would have done. But certainly an 8 from Martin Kelly, a very solid performance. Obviously moving on now to the right back Joe Ward, who I'm going to give an 8. Provided the opening for the first goal with a delightful pass into the space ahead of Yohan Cabaye, who then crossed to Christian Benteke. His defensive work was obviously outstanding as well. So obviously Joe Ward here, I've given him an 8, and although he hasn't been performing up to the sort of the heights of the rest of the team in past weeks, this game against Liverpool, he's certainly done exactly that. And before I go on to talk about his defensive performance, he put in a fantastic ball for Cabaye to provide Benteke for the first goal, and I like to call it a pre-assist because he was assisting the assister, and it all started with Jason punching in the midfield. He was trying to protect the ball, managed to keep hold of it, passed it back to Tomkins. Tomkins spread the ball out to the right flank with Joe Ward there, and some people may say he messed up his touch, but I personally think sort of one touch, got the cross perfect, managed to whip it forward to Yohan Cabaye, and whether it was a mistake or just a panic cross, whatever it was, it's fantastic. And if it was his vision, his skill, then fantastic skill to see Yohan Cabaye making that run into the space. And obviously Cabaye, I'm going to talk about him, but here's obviously ball to Benteke was fantastic as well. But the fact that Joe Ward can be that attacking presence, the fact that he can get the ball, put crosses forward to start attacks, it's fantastic. And you don't get points, or you don't get you don't get sort of recognised, let's say, for being a pre-assister, for setting up attacks. But certainly I will recognise him, and that's why I've given him an 8, is because yes, his defensive work was good like the rest of the team, but it was his attacking threat, the fact that he could get that ball to Cabaye, which was fantastic. But defensive work, much like Jeffrey Slopp on the other side, he did look like at the beginning of the game it was going to be a long game ahead of us. He wasn't really looking that solid. But much like Slopp, he slowly grew into the game, slowly got better, and obviously his defensive work was absolutely outstanding. And obviously that's why I've given him an 8. Much like Sakho, much like what Sakho's been doing, like what Tomkins done in this game, like what Kelly's done, putting in tackles, putting in blocks to try and sort of stop Liverpool getting forward and attacking. And the fact that Liverpool only had one shot on target in the second half is just credit to how good the defensive unit was, but obviously Joe Ward as well, because Liverpool were going to try and attack us from the wings, and we were able to keep their attacking threat to a minimum. But obviously Joe Ward here, I've given him an 8, an absolutely solid performance defensively and offensively from him again. Obviously moving on now to the defensive midfielder Luka Milivojevic, who I'm going to give an 8. Does an impressive job at providing a blanket of cover to Palace's defence. He ran 11.9 kilometres during the match, more than any other player on the pitch. So obviously Luka here, I've given him an 8 because once again, like the new signings been in all the other games this season, with the exception of maybe one, it was a fantastic performance from him. But before I go on to talk about his performance, I must say this stat came out on the official Crystal Palace Twitter account, and it's actually that he ran 11.9 kilometres during the game. So that just shows how good of a defensive performance it was. The fact that he covered so much ground to stop Liverpool getting through is just a credit to him, and that was more than any other player on the pitch. So even though we had so many counter-attacks and our attacking players were running forward, running down the flanks, it was actually the defensive midfielder doing his sort of box-to-box, sort of protecting our box in front of the back line, doing that sort of work in front of it. That sort of work was much more crucial, and he actually ran more doing that job than the wingers done. So that just shows how good of a defensive performance it was, the fact that he was covering so much area, and the fact that he covered more than any other player on the pitch is just a credit to obviously how well he controlled and sort of run the midfield. But like we've said in past weeks, you know, he's playing in a defensive midfield role. He gives a little bit of protection to the back line, and you know, I called it here a blanket of cover. That's what he done. He covered the back line, made sure that they had a little bit more cover, and considering Liverpool have some real good attacking threat, he kept that to a minimum. And even when they did get through, like I said, he kept running, he tracked back and make sure he can defend to get the ball away. And there were a few clearances, few passes he also done. Everything like that was excellent throughout the game. And although people may criticise him, you know, for giving away the free kick for Coutinho, you know, that sort of late foul. But to be honest, in my opinion, maybe if you hadn't have made that foul, Coutinho maybe would have run into the box and had a shot anyway, and it would have gone in. But in my opinion, I'm not really going to criticise him too much, like with Hennessy with the goal, because at the end of the day, I call it a tactical foul. He stopped him going into the box and finding another opponent. So, you know, in that respect, and the fact that he didn't get booked, in that respect, it was a good tackle. But certainly, I've given him an 8 from Luka. Fantastic performance from him once again. A very good defensive performance, giving that little bit of protection to the back four. And like I said, his performance shows in the stats the fact that he ran more than any other player on the pitch. Obviously, moving on now to the attacking midfield at Yohan Cabaye, who I am going to give a 9. Does so much work in the box-to-box midfield role. His cross for Benteke's equaliser was perfectly weighted and placed. So obviously, Yohan Cabaye here, I talked about with Tomkins, I don't really give 9s out often, but Yohan Cabaye's performance definitely does deserve it. And you know, I talked about Luka doing that defensive role in front of the back four, just in front of the penalty box, you know, running loads or running a lot over the field. And Yohan Cabaye, yes, he does the opposite, but just at the other, or he does the opposite, but just at the other end of the field. So, you know, playing that box-to-box midfield role, he's trying to make runs into the box, trying to find opponents. And a classic example of that was when he was able to get on the end of the ball from Ward and put in that pin perfect cross to Benteke. You know, it wasn't only in the right place, it wasn't only weighted nicely. It wasn't only placed nicely, it was weighted nicely. You know, lovely curl on the ball to get to Benteke, lovely height so he could hit it on the volley. And that's just a credit to him. You know, the fact that he can get on the end of the ball and read that ball from Ward to control it, and then one time cross into Benteke. Like I said, lovely pinpoint weight, and the weight of it was fantastic, and obviously it was placed very well. But like I said, I've given him a 9. There isn't really much to say about his performance other than it was just excellent. The fact that, like I said, he'd done that box-to-box midfield role, running the midfield, you know, making sure that he can get as much attacking threat as possible. And considering we didn't have that much possession, maybe about 40%, you know, the attacking players had to do what they could with it. And, you know, Yohan Cabaye, when we did have possession at one time, when he had the chance to create an opportunity for another teammate, he took it and obviously made the most of the, you know, the possession we had. But like I said, I can't highlight it enough. You'll watch the replay on the channel. I've actually uploaded it, so if you do want to watch a replay of the goal, click the I button in the corner of the YouTube video. But seriously, that goal was fantastic. Lovely curl on the ball, lovely weight, and obviously placed perfectly. And you know, there isn't really much to say about his performance other than it was fantastic. Now to move on to the captain, Jason Puncheon, who I am going to give an 8. Tirelessly ran the midfield for Palace, defensively and offensively. What he doesn't contribute in goals, he makes up for the effort and organisation. So obviously Jason Puncheon here, I've given him an 8 because once again it was a very good performance from the captain. And you know, I've said this in past weeks and I must say it again, you know, since he's been given the captaincy, he's upped his game completely, and this game was a classic example of that. And like I said towards the end of the summary, you know, although he doesn't contribute in goals and he doesn't really get that many assists, what he does sort of with the effort in the midfield and the fact that within the captain's role he organises the team, them sort of things alone make up for the fact that he doesn't score many goals. And I've heard many Palace fans say that you know, for him as a player, his role sort of changed. He's no longer that sort of creative attacking player. He's more of sort of a defensive sort of centre mid, let's say. So he does offensive and defensive work. So he isn't really the more creative player as he used to be. But in that new role, yes, he doesn't get goals. Yes, he doesn't get that many assists. But he does make sure that there's, you know, a lot of effort in the team, you know, by motivating the players around him. And also he makes sure that there's organisation. You know, the thing that I really liked about his performance, and maybe we've seen this with the whole squad, you know, an upness in fitness since Allardyce has come in. But certainly Jason Puncheon carried on throughout the game, you know, tirelessly. He didn't give up till the end of the game, kept sort of running and controlling the midfield, you know, controlling the pace of the game, linking up the attack with the defence. Everything he'd done in the game was fantastic, and he kept doing it till the end. You know, defensively he was fantastic, tracking back, making tackles, you know, marking close, doing his sort of man-to-man marking, making sure Liverpool couldn't get past. And obviously offensively, you know, try and sort of control the ball, obviously slow the game down, and then, you know, sort of try and create the attack, try and spread the ball to set up the attacks. And like I said, you know, he doesn't contribute in goals necessarily by scoring or assisting them, but what he does is he controls the midfield. When he gets the ball, he controls it and then puts the ball out to where he needs to get the ball out to, so obviously we can start up attacks. But once again, I've said this already and I can't, you know, reiterate it enough. You know, since he's been given the captain's armband, his performances have upped completely, and I personally think, you know, that responsibility, his sort of you know, leadership skills has really helped us. It's really helped the team to push on. And you know, the fact that we've beaten 3 top 6 sides in the last 3 weeks is just credit to how well the team have played. But I personally think we've got to give credit to the captain as well for how the way he sort of organised the team and obviously made them play. But like I said, Jason Puncheon, an 8 from him, tirelessly running throughout the game, you know, done a very good job defensively, tracking back, and obviously offensively setting up attacks. And like I said, he doesn't necessarily score goals or gets assists, but his effort and organisation and leadership skills do make up for that. Obviously moving on now to the wing-up Wilfried Zaha, who I am going to give a 7. Found the game a little difficult to get into. Liverpool marked him well, but he still provided an outlet during spells of pressure. So obviously Wilfried Zaha here, I've given him a 7, and it's, you know, quite low considering how well he's played in recent weeks. And the only reason he didn't really get as high rating as all the others is, you know, he had one of his off games, and considering he's set such high standards now for the way he plays, you can, when he has an off game, you do notice it considerably, whereas other players, if they have off games, you don't notice it as much. And you know, Wilfried Zaha, he did really struggle to get into the game, and whether that's because Liverpool marked him very well, or maybe he just weren't feeling up to the game, he still tried on a few occasions to get forward and attack. And you know, he still had a few runs where he got through 2 or 3 defenders and tried to get into the box to put a cross or, you know, to get a shot in. So he still had that sort of attacking presence, but like I said, he found it a little bit more difficult than in past games. Probably because, in my opinion, Liverpool were marking him so closely they didn't really have the opportunity. And, you know, ultimately, because they were man-marking, maybe doubling up on Wilfried Zaha, it meant the likes of Andros Townsend had more space to run into. And obviously, Andros Townsend had a better game. But like I said, Wilfried Zaha, I've given him a 7, you know. Considering how well he's played in recent weeks, it was a slight disappointment. But, you know, like I said, once you set such high standards, you're going to have 1 or 2 off games every so often, and obviously this game was one of them. And I must mention, or like I've said already, you know, yes, Liverpool marked him very well, but there was a few occasions where obviously he got through them and obviously went on to score. So do comment below in the YouTube comments what you thought about Wilfried Zaha's performance, whether you do agree with the fact that I've given him a 7 considering how well the performance as a team was. But certainly I think a 7 is a fair result from him considering he didn't have as much influence as he normally has, but when he had the opportunity, despite finding it difficult to get them, he still took them well. Obviously moving on now to the striker Christian Benteke, who I'm going to give a 9. Took his first goal coolly and showed great awareness for the second. His work at holding the ball up won't get too much credit, but has been integral to Palace's style. So obviously Christian Benteke here, I've given him a 9, and I said this at the beginning, I said this for Kabay, I said this for Tomkins. I don't often give 9s, but certainly Christian Benteke's performance does warrant it. And you know, I must talk about his first goal. Obviously he's going back to his old club, you know, and just to sort of rub the salt in the wounds, just to sort of show off to the fans, saying, you know, this is why you should have kept me at the club. And he said this to the manager as well. You know, he was showing the manager why he should have kept him at the club with 2 superbly taken goals. The first one, like I said, lovely ball over from Ward to Kabay, lovely cross from Kabay, but the finish as well from Benteke, first time with the side of his foot into the roof of the net. Great skill there. You know, other sort of strikers in the league may sky that because obviously the ball was coming so fast, but Benteke stayed cool, was able to put it into the top corner. And obviously the second goal, lovely corner. Well, some people say it's a lovely corner from Townsend. I sort of think it's a sort of in the middle because it sort of looked like it was going to go out because it was a bad corner, but sort of Chan, I believe it was, or Firmino whipped it back into the path of Benteke, and into the path of Benteke. Benteke saw it there, had his great awareness to time his header just exactly right. Lovely diving header, past Mignolet into the goal. So them 2 goals were fantastic, you know, and just showing the Liverpool fans what they're missing out on. And to be honest, you know, other than the goals he scored, his holding up play, his hold up play was fantastic. You know, whenever we obviously didn't have much possession, but whenever we set up an attack, you know, Benteke would hold at the ball, wait for support, spread the ball out, and then, you know, go forward. And there are a few chances, you know, where he held at the ball, managed to turn the defender and have a shot. You know, notably there was one within about the first sort of 10 minutes of the game where he got got the ball up, held it up, turned the defender, had a shot which went just wide. So he, you know, his holding up of the ball isn't just to hold possession and to, you know, get the ball out to the wingers. It's also so he can sort of make the defender get close to him to mark him, so he can turn the defender, and that's what I like about his game. And you know, most people won't give him credit because they think that he might be lazy, but certainly in the last few games he hasn't been lazy, and he's actually been integral to the way we've changed our style. So the, you know, under you know, Alan Pardew, we tried to play a bit more expansive, and in this game, I suppose on certain occasions of certain times throughout the game we were playing slightly expansive because Benteke, Zaha, Townsend, Punchin, Cabaye, we were all playing quite nice attacking football, you know, spreading the ball out wide, you know, holding up the ball. Everything about his game was fantastic. But like I said, a 9 from him, a fantastic performance from him. You know, first goal, fantastic awareness from Cabaye to get the ball to him, but also lovely corners from Benteke to score it. And obviously the second one, lovely movement inside the box to dive his header in. And obviously if you do want to watch a video of his goal or a replay of the goal, do check on the channel now on YouTube. You'll find the link in the description below or in the I button in the top corner. Do give it a watch, do give it a like, because it just shows you how good the goal was. You can see the replays from many different angles, because certainly I think it was a fantastic result. But obviously I've given him a 9. It was a fantastic performance from us. You know, his 2 goals were fantastic, hold up play was good, but he's actually been recognised as well in the Premier League Team of the Week, and this is WhoScored.com stats. So obviously they analyse all the statistic, goals, assists, amount of take-ons, amount of shots, all these things put together to give him a number, and I believe his was sort of around maybe 8.5 to 9.5, so he had a rating within that margin. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but the fact that he got into the Premier League Team of the Week just shows how good his performance was. And you know, I don't know if all of you play FIFA out there, but certainly he should, after getting 2 goals, considering he got an inform 2 goals at near sort of the beginning of the season, he certainly would probably be in the running to get a Premier League FIFA card, inform one, maybe about 88 rated. So if you do like FIFA, I would highly recommend you do sort of save up money to get packs or to buy his inform card, because if he does get that inform card, which he deserves because he got into the Team of the Week, that would be a really wicked 88 rated card. And you know, another card on FIFA he might get, you know, he scored 5 goals in April already, you know, that's about the same as Lukaku got last season. He may even get the Player of the Month card. So even if he gets that as well, it will be credit to how well he's played this month. But also for your FIFA players out there, you can use your favourite player from your club to, obviously, because he's got a fantastic card. But before I go on to talk about the final player, I've summed up his performance. Fantastic performance from him. That's why I've given him a 9. But just a few statistics I've got from the game from WhoScored.com. You know, he won 5 aerial duels. He had 5 shots on goal. He had 2 take-ons where obviously he held up the ball and turned the defender. And obviously he had 2 goals. So that just rounds off them stats of how good a performance it was from him. Obviously moving on now to the final winger of our starting 11. And that is Andros Townsend, who I am going to give a 9. Like Zaha, he found it difficult to get into the game, but his defensive work, essentially playing as a wing-back for much of the second half, made a great difference to Palace's defending. So obviously Andros Townsend here, I've given him a 9, and I've said this for other players, I don't often give 9s, but this performance at Anfield against Liverpool was a fantastic one, and Andros Townsend certainly deserves the 9 I've given him. And you know, much like Zaha, he did find it difficult to first, you know, sort of get into the game at first, and that's because Liverpool were man-marking all of our wingers, maybe doubling up on them, so they didn't really have the chances, you know, to get forward and attack as they would have liked to, you know. And like Zaha, Townsend got a few chances to get to the byline, put crosses in, but ultimately, you know, because he was being man-marked, he didn't really have as much influence as he would have liked. But much like Slup, on the other hand, as the game progressed, he got better and better, and you know, towards the end of the game, he was playing more as a wing-back, you know, trying to sort of, you know, protect our lead. So he played defensive, maybe as a back 6 it were, throughout the game, and that defensive work was fantastic. So you know, he knew in his second half he grew into the game, and obviously his attacking work improved, but also because we had to do defensive work, that also improved as well. And you know, I've said this already, Sam Allardyce's tactics are spot on, and they've been spot on in the last few games, and to play Townsend as a wing back is fantastic, because yes, he's got pretty good man marking skills and he's got the pace to go back and defend, but also he does make a few good interceptions and good tackles as well. So that's a really good decision on Allardyce's part to play him there. And the thing about it, if you look back at the replays of the game, with sort of Townsend and Van Aanholt and Slop, when they were on the pitch, they were sort of playing, or the back four were playing quite deep, obviously trying to protect the lead, and obviously the two wingers were playing as wing backs as well. So it was almost like we were playing as a back six, and that tactic worked perfectly fine. We've got to protect our lead. We've done that well, and it wasn't necessarily parking the bus because you've got two wingers playing, as wing backs. You can have them attack the ball, and there was certainly towards the end of the game, there was a few chances where Townsend definitely did run down the flank, and I believe it was either him or Slop who actually won the corner which led to our winning goal. And I must say, I think you get assists for corners, but that ball from Townsend, I've said this already, it wasn't necessarily the best corner because it looked like it was going out, but Firmino managed to sort of chip it back to Benteke for Benteke to score. So the fact that he probably wouldn't get the assist because Firmino hit it there, but the fact that he delivered that corner in for Benteke to score is also just a credit of his performance as a whole. But like I said, in the second half, defending was fantastic and actually made a great difference to Palace's defending. Having that little bit of extra protection, having that extra man did help us extremely well to obviously go on and to protect our lead. But certainly a 9 from Townsend. Do comment below with what you think, but I personally think the most improved player under Sam Allardyce in this game, he showed it again. Obviously, moving on now to the substitutes, Patrick Van Aanholt, Damien Delaney and Fraser Campbell. So none of these substitutes, I'm not really going to give them ratings because I personally feel they weren't on the pitch long enough. But, I talked about us playing the back six. Van Aanholt was brought on for Zaha and just to sort of provide defensive cover for Slop. So I personally think Van Aanholt sort of went into the left back role and Slop played that wing back role. But that was just to, like I said, protect our lead. Obviously, Damien Delaney also came on just to provide a little bit more of defensive skill. So just to bring a bit more physicality to our defence, obviously. Just to, like I said, to protect the lead, and he done what was asked of him. What was asked of him was to go onto the pitch, protect our lead, and at that point we were probably playing as a back 5 maybe, so that would have been maybe a back 7, but we were playing with them players just to protect the lead, and certainly Damien Delaney came on to do that defensive work, and although he's getting old and his legs may be, his legs may be getting tired now, he still puts himself about a bit, getting blocks in, and certainly, like I said, he'd done what was expected of him. And obviously Fraser Campbell as well, we all laugh at him really, but I thought his contribution was fantastic towards the end of the game. There was actually a video on Twitter of the touch he got when long ball came over the top. He managed to get a touch on it, which was fantastic, sublime touch, and actually get past the defender to hold the ball by the corner flag. So that actually just shows the impact he's got, and maybe how much he's improved under Allardyce. The fact that he's now got that ability to see where the cross is coming and actually get to a pinpoint touch on it. But what he was tasked on, he obviously came on for the goal scorer Benteke. He sort of had to chase down Liverpool's defenders and just sort of tire them out towards the end of the game. And, he came on for an exhausted looking Benteke. So we wanted a little bit more pace, a little bit more energy just to sort of see out the game. Took Benteke off, and he done exactly what was needed off of him. All we expected Benteke or Fraser Campbell to do is just to sort of run down the game, pick the ball up, use his pace to sort of get past defenders and hold up the ball, and he done exactly that. But just to sort of summarise the game there, do comment below, like I said at the beginning, with whether you do agree with my player rankings, and do comment below with your ratings, obviously rating all of the players from 1 to 10. But just really to summarise the game now, over the last 2 months, and especially the last 3 weeks where we've beaten 3 teams in the top 6, we've been remarkable, and that's personally you've got to give credit to Sam Allardyce, and that's personally I think is a lot that most of that turnaround is all down to the manager's work. The fact that he's putting in the work on in training ground, he brought in the right players in January. All of that put together has just shown how good of a manager Sam Allardyce is, and it's just because of him we've had a remarkable 2 months, and it's been a turnaround. With performances like this, the fact that we can beat top 6 sides, it certainly should put Allardyce in sort of the manager of the season contention. The fact that he came to us, when we were in deep risk of relegation, he managed to pick up all of these points. I believe it's 16 out of 21. I don't quote me on that, but they were the points we had. So he's managed to pick our form up, like I said, turn us around, and obviously helped us to stay up. And although we're not safe yet, 38, maybe 1 or 2 more points to get us to the magical 40. That hopefully should be enough to keep us up this season. And then at the end of that, we can give Sam Allardyce praise for what he's done, because the work he's done is absolutely fantastic. And one of the things really I think he's embedded back into the side is character. He's put the character back into the squad, and in this game it shone. We could see exactly where the character was. Although we had that early step back, obviously where Liverpool scored quite early on, all of the players made sure they stuck to Allardyce's plan, and instead of sort of letting their heads drop, they carried on with exactly the same game plan, trying to hit Liverpool up, trying to attack Liverpool, and they fought their way back into the game, obviously with Benteke's equaliser, which just shows Allardyce's gameplay was to get in behind the fullbacks and get crosses into Benteke. We carried on doing that and obviously got the equaliser, and then we took advantage of that with the winner. You know, the bad defending. Obviously the corner wasn't fantastic, but the ball came in from Townsend. Bad defending by Liverpool. We capitalised on that and obviously went on to win the game. So it just shows that when we had a chance, we took them. Now to move on to my man of the match award. But before that, I give you my man of the match, and who I thought had the biggest influence on the game. And now I'm going to give the results of my Twitter poll. So obviously if you do want to vote in next week's Twitter poll and have your opinion heard on who you thought the best player was, and obviously the player with the biggest influence in the game, then of course you can vote on the Twitter poll on my personal Twitter account at the CPC Podcast. Obviously the Twitter poll isn't run by Crystal Palace, but if you do want to give my personal Twitter account at the CPC Podcast a follow, you get the chance to obviously vote in next week's man of the match poll for the games against Tottenham and obviously the games after that. But also, you know, I do like the Crystal Palace account. I do regularly update it with the latest news. So if you do want another place to get all the latest Crystal Palace news as well as the man of the match polls, then of course do give me a follow. But you know, it was a very good performance against Liverpool. Obviously, as I've said in the player ratings, obviously I've given a few, quite a lot of 8s and a few 9s, which I don't normally do. But just to go over the players, the 4 players who I thought had the biggest influence in the game, and obviously the Twitter poll nominations, I obviously put James Tomkins, By, Jason Puncheon and Christian Benteke. So just to start off, in last place with 3% of the votes was By. In third place with 6% of the votes was James Tomkins, which means in second place and runner-up in this week's man of the match poll with 10% of the votes was Jason Puncheon, which means the winner of this week's man of the match poll with a very impressive, I think the highest we've had this season, 81% of the votes was Christian Benteke. So congratulations, Christian. You don't get a trophy or certificate, but you do get my sincere congratulations on what was another solid performance from you, where you bagged yourself 2 goals against your former club in what was, like I said, a very good team performance altogether. But like I said, the whole team played very well, and I probably could have put more players on there. If the likes of Andros Townsend, maybe Joe Ward, I could have put these players on there, but as on Twitter there's only 4 nominations, I could only narrow it down to these guys. But just to go over why I've put them on there, obviously James Tomkins, I gave him the 9 in the player ratings. He was absolutely solid throughout the game. His defensive work was fantastic, his tackles, his blocks, everything about his game was fantastic, and obviously that's why I put him on the shortlist. Same with By, playing that box-to-box midfield role. He was fantastic throughout the game, trying to create attacking opportunities, and obviously the assist for Benteke was also fantastic. The captain, Jason Puncheon, organising the team as normal, doing that captain's role, and done a very good defensive and offensive job, you know, defensively, making sure he can get blocks and tackles in to stop Liverpool attacking, and obviously going forward to try and set up the other players, try and control the midfield and set the team going forward. And obviously Christian Benteke here, if you score 2 goals in a game, you're more than likely going to be on the shortlist for the man of the match. Obviously he's on the shortlist for his 2 goals, but also his game as a whole, you know, his aerial presence, his aerial ability throughout the game, the fact that he won most of his headers, and also the fact that his hold-up play as well. And you know, even more so than the goals, his hold-up play was fantastic. The fact that he was able to get other players around him into play and get them involved as well. But to be honest, it's really easy for me. You know, like I said, the whole team probably could deserve it for the fact that we've been able to beat one of the best teams in the league this season. You know, we've been able to get that sort of mentality together, you know, and be able to go and have the tenacity to go and beat Liverpool. But to be honest, personally, I think there's only one winner for this, and it's Christian Benteke. So congratulations, Christian. You're the winner of my Twitter poll, or my personal man of the match nomination, and also you're the winner of the Twitter poll nomination. And the only reason, obviously I've nominated you for the goal, but that's really the only reason why I voted for you. You scored the 2 fantastic goals, and if, you know, the whole team really put in an excellent display against Liverpool, but you in particular, you scored the 2 goals, hold-up play was fantastic, and obviously your aerial and attacking threat throughout the game was good as well. But certainly credit must go to, you know, the likes of Tomkins, Jason Puncheon for their defensive skills, and obviously By and Benteke on the shortlist, obviously because of their attacking skills. But do comment below with who you would have voted for the man of the match for the game against Liverpool. So now you've heard my match report, player rankings and my man of the match. That concludes this week's podcast. Now I've got an exclusive interview with Sam Allardyce, Jason Puncheon, Christian Benteke and Andros Townsend following the game.
Guys, well played. Andros, after the other teams won yesterday, is that a huge reaction and a huge result for Crystal Palace?
Yeah, we were travelling up yesterday and we saw the other teams won. Put a little bit of pressure on us, but in the last few months we've made a habit of upsetting the big teams, and we've done it again thanks to the big man, and hopefully now that gives us a little breathing space going into the final weeks of the season.
Christian, no celebration after either goal, but just a hint of a smile that told us you really rather enjoyed those goals.
No, I say to myself, if I get the chance to score, I want to celebrate it because I respect Liverpool. What happened when I was here, it's behind me, and I was really looking forward to play against my old teammate.
Were you inspired by the fact that it was Liverpool, Anfield, and your old team today?
No, I was motivated, I would say. We knew that it was going to be hard to play against them, but I think I give all the praise to the lad for the hard work.
Said no celebration, but a little handshake or something you worked on with Sakho there?
No, it was between him and me, and I told him as soon as I score, I will come to him.
Andros, 38 points with your goal difference, 12th. Is it done?
No, not yet. 'Cause I think you've seen the other teams in the bottom 5 or 6 are winning football matches. Almost there, but we've got a difficult last 5 games. So never say never, but hopefully now we can start looking up the table and seeing how far we can finish.
What's inspired this run, Andros? How have you done it? Without those 9 points against Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, you'd be deep in trouble. How have you done it?
First and foremost, hard work on the training pitch, day in, day out. And second of all, confidence. I think winning football matches gives you the belief. I think you saw last season with Leicester, winning football matches breeds confidence, and we come here today not fearing Liverpool, and in the end we've got a fantastic win.
Well, Christian, on your return to Anfield, 2 goals,
Thank you.
Premier League man of the match.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Take care.
Jason, immediate reaction to coming up to Anfield and once again winning. This is a special 3 points for us.
Yeah, I think massive considering how the results went yesterday, and obviously the week we got coming up with the game coming in hand, and obviously the Burnley game at home. I think it was vitally important to get some points today.
We spoke to the boss earlier about the character shown. He said that was very important after going 1 behind. Not only today, but at Stamford Bridge. It shows what's in this squad, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's showed massive character. I think we've sort of turned the corner now, and I think that's great credit to everyone. We was a bit stretched at the back, obviously losing Mama. Tomkins has come back in, Kelsey's come in and done brilliant. And obviously we lost Patrick, and Slippy's come in and done brilliant. So I think it's a great credit to everyone.
Obviously their goal coming from that great free kick, but the way that we came back after that, and I think as you touched on there, a real team effort from everyone playing their part.
Yeah, definitely everyone played their part. Coutinho is a magical player. He obviously gave him a free kick, and when you think about it, it's probably all they really had in the first half. Second half the game gets a bit stretched, but I thought we took our chance when we had it, and Crystal Palace is always good with their backs to the wall.
And of course you mentioned Mama being out, Kels and Tom's come back in there, but it was a solid performance at the back from all of them.
Yeah, solid performance from all of them. Our keeper was brilliant. Come out, took some pressure off us when he needed to come and punch it, and I thought that helped. Again, but it's a vital 3 points for us. And
for yourself as Palace captain, what do you think about this role?
It's been brilliant. I've loved every minute of it. But for me, the most important thing is for us to stay up. I think we've edged a little bit closer to that and taken a bit of pressure off ourselves, ready for Wednesday.
But Wednesday and Saturday, you'll be sure to make sure that the emphasis is carrying on the job, isn't it, throughout the week?
Yeah, it's not over. We've still got a lot to play for, and let's try and finish as high up as we can as possible. First of all, getting that mathematically safe to make sure we're in the Premier League, and then try and finish as high as we can after that.
Jace, thanks very much. Cheers. Well, Sam, congratulations on the win. Another fine away day for Palace.
Yeah, outstanding, the lads today, and I think that we probably, nationally wise, may struggle to get the credibility we deserve today. They'll be telling us about what an off day Liverpool had, how they weren't playing to their best, and how they weren't doing this and that, and whatever they should have been doing, they weren't. And the only real reason to the Palace fans out there why they didn't do that is because we didn't let them, because we were so good. We made them look so ordinary today, particularly from an attacking point of view. Wayne Hennessy had very little to do, even though Liverpool had the vast majority of the possession. And what we did with our possession was perfect in terms of how to expose Liverpool. We did that, we exposed them, we created chances, and in the end we converted one more chance than them, and they only scored a goal off an absolutely outstanding free kick from Coutinho. The rest in open play was there was very little for us to concern ourselves about.
The media spoke to you in the week about Christian coming back up to Anfield. You said it was important that he concentrated on the job in hand, and that's exactly what he did.
No doubt about that. I mean, the first goal particularly was outstanding. I mean, the ball from Wardy, the run from Johan Kavai, the ball from Johan was outstanding behind the Liverpool defence, and Christian piling on that far post where he likes to be, finishing it off. And it's what he's all about. He's a goal scorer. And he's a big man that scores goals. You know, today, lads at 6'3" don't sort of get that many goals these days. I mean, I know Lukaku's done it, but you know, and obviously Costa at Chelsea, but they seem fewer and farther between them from 20 odd years ago. But Christian now, I think, on 15 goals in a team that struggled for most of the season, outstanding return, and he's looking now outstanding value for money that the club paid in the summer.
And great character once again from the team. They've come from behind at Stamford Bridge, then here, obviously beaten Arsenal at home. That's a great value to have in a relegation fight.
It was, and all the subs came on and did the job, and we had to put James Tomkins up front because we'd used all our subs just for the last 5 minutes or so because of a dreadful tackle from the Liverpool player. It really was a very, very dangerous tackle that's going to put James Tomkins out for, I probably think, a considerable amount of time. But there we go. We've got Mama back on Wednesday, so hopefully that won't hurt us too much. Damien Delaney come on and did a good job. Fraser Campbell, Patrick Van Arnold. So we're outstanding at the minute. I can't say any more than that for the players. They're outstanding, and I think that the comeback against Leicester, the comeback against Chelsea, and the comeback here shows what character we've got, and it shows that now we don't believe whatever happens in a game that we're beaten. We'll go right to the end, and what's happened recently has proven that.
Spurs and Burnley to come this week. The focus very much is to be carried on, I would think, in these next few days.
Well, a huge importance of this victory at Liverpool gives us the 38 points that we've been looking for. Can we go farther than that now? What it does give me, it gives me an opportunity to change the side against Tottenham. These lads have ran themselves into the ground, and I think that I think changes and fresh legs need to be put into the side on Wednesday because we haven't been given enough time to recover from this for Wednesday night. Tottenham played yesterday. We haven't. We have suffered this problem before and failed when we played Swansea at home, having played Arsenal on 2 days before that game, and Swansea having a full day's rest ahead of us. So we've been dealt a cruel blow in terms of fixture congestion this week. I have to deal with the squad that's available and then get another squad ready for Burnley. But because we've got these 3 points, these massive 3 points today, it makes life a awful lot easier for us this week.
Congratulations. Thank you.
So there you have it. Now you've heard what Sam Allardyce, Jason Puncheon, Christian Benteke and Andrew Townsend had to say after the game. That concludes this week's podcast for the game against Liverpool. But make sure to come back next week for my post-match review of the game against Tottenham. So thanks for listening, and remember to up the Palace!